Let me start with the most surprising thing I've learned in over 20 years of working with relationships. Most men think they know exactly what women want, and most men are wrong. Not because they're bad partners, not because they don't care, but because nobody ever sat them down and explained it clearly. There is no universal manual for understanding intimacy, and many women don't always put these feelings into words, even when they feel them deeply. What looks like a simple touch can sometimes communicate something far more powerful. I see you. I'm here. You matter to me. And here's where this becomes especially important in long-term relationships. When you've been together for years or even decades, it's easy to assume your partner already knows you love her. You pay the bills, you help around the house, you show up when something goes wrong. You may think, she knows how I feel. But love isn't only something we know intellectually. It's also something we experience. Sometimes a woman can be sitting beside the person she's loved for 30 years and still quietly wonder, does he still notice me? Does he still want to be close to me? Am I still important to him? If you've ever felt that distance in your own relationship, tell me in the comments. You don't have to share anything private. Just tell me whether you believe small, affectionate gestures become more important as a relationship gets older. Because the truth is, many couples don't lose their connection all at once. They lose it one small moment at a time. A hand that used to reach for hers stops reaching. A hug becomes shorter. Sitting close together becomes sitting on opposite sides of the room. Touch becomes associated almost exclusively with sex, and ordinary affection slowly disappears. And when that happens, both partners can begin feeling lonely without fully understanding why. Mary Smith, host of Senior Mindful Living YouTube channel. Today, we're going to explore 7 areas where gentle, respectful touch can create opportunities for closeness. But I want to make one thing absolutely clear from the beginning. These aren't magic buttons, secret techniques, or guaranteed ways to make a woman desire you. Every person is different. The meaning of touch depends on trust, consent, personality, history, mood, and the relationship itself. The real power isn't in a particular body part. It's in what your touch communicates. And that distinction could completely change the way you approach intimacy. The first place is the back of the neck, around the base of the hairline. Think about how many emotions collect there after a long day. Stress, fatigue, tension. The feeling of carrying responsibilities from morning until night. Now imagine your partner has had one of those exhausting days. Instead of immediately asking for attention, affection, or intimacy, you simply come close and gently place your fingertips at the back of her neck, not squeezing, not rubbing aggressively, not treating her body like something you're trying to activate. Just a warm, gentle touch. That difference matters. A slow, reassuring touch can help some people feel calmer because affectionate physical contact can influence the body's stress and bonding systems. But don't think of this as a biological trick. Think of it as a message. I noticed you're tired. You don't have to explain everything. I'm here. That's what makes the gesture meaningful. And pay attention to her response. Maybe she relaxes. Maybe she leans toward you. Maybe she smiles. Maybe she simply continues what she was doing. All of those responses are information. The goal isn't to force a reaction. The goal is to create a moment of safety. And that leads to the second place, the area between the shoulder blades. This is one of those incredibly simple forms of affection that can be surprisingly meaningful in a long-term relationship. Imagine your partner standing in the kitchen after dinner. You walk over, put your hand gently between her shoulder blades, and simply stand there for a moment. No sexual expectation, no immediate request, no hidden agenda, just presence. One of the biggest mistakes couples make is assuming every touch has to lead somewhere. When affectionate contact becomes a transaction, I touch you, therefore I expect something, the other person can begin feeling pressure instead of closeness. But when touch asks for nothing, it can feel completely different. Consider a couple I'll call Robert and Elaine. They've been married for more than 30 years. Their relationship wasn't falling apart. There was no dramatic betrayal or explosive conflict. Their problem was quieter. They had become efficient. They discussed groceries, bills, appointments, family, house repairs. But they rarely touched unless they were being intimate. One evening, Robert began doing something incredibly simple. When he passed Elaine in the kitchen, he would occasionally place his hand gently on her upper back and say nothing. At first, she barely reacted, but over time, she began turning toward him. Then she started initiating the same kind of touch. Nothing dramatic happened overnight, But something changed. They started noticing each other again. That's an important lesson. Intimacy often returns through repetition, not intensity. The third place is the hands. This one sounds almost too ordinary, doesn't it? But think about what the hands represent in everyday life. They cook, they clean, they work, they care for children, they hold grandchildren, they write messages, they make coffee, they fix things, they carry bags, they comfort people. Our hands are constantly doing things for other people. So sometimes, simply holding your partner's hand with attention can communicate something powerful. You don't have to do anything right now. Just be here with me. Try this the next time you're sitting together. Take her hand. Don't squeeze too tightly. Don't immediately turn it into sexual touching. Just hold it. Maybe gently trace your thumb across the back of her hand. And then pause. Look at her. Let the moment breathe. Research on affectionate touch and close relationships has consistently found associations between positive physical affection, emotional connection, stress regulation, and relationship satisfaction. But the most important variable isn't some special movement. It's whether the touch is welcome and emotionally meaningful. That's why you shouldn't memorize a technique. Learn to pay attention. The fourth place is around the jawline and behind the ear. This is a more intimate area, so the rule becomes even more important. Only touch there when you already have a comfortable level of closeness and your partner welcomes it. A gentle brush along the side of her face or near her ear can feel incredibly personal because the face is associated with identity, recognition, and vulnerability. But here's something many people miss. Sometimes the most attractive thing you can do is stop. If she moves away, respect it. If she doesn't respond, don't escalate. If she reaches toward you, stay present. Consent isn't something you ask about only once. It's something you communicate through attention throughout the interaction. And that kind of awareness is deeply attractive because it tells your partner, your comfort matters to me more than getting what I want. The fifth place is the leg, around the knee. Again, we're talking about gentle, non-sexual affection, not moving toward intimate areas without permission. When you're sitting together, a hand resting briefly on her knee or the outside of her leg can communicate warmth and closeness. But here's the psychological principle underneath it. Anticipation and pressure are not the same thing. Healthy attraction leaves room for choice. If every affectionate gesture immediately becomes an attempt to initiate sex, your partner may eventually learn to become guarded whenever you touch her. But if you can touch her simply because you enjoy being close to her, something changes. She doesn't have to wonder what you're going to ask for next. She can simply enjoy the connection. Try an experiment this week. Give your partner affectionate touch with absolutely no expectation of anything afterward. See whether the atmosphere changes. The sixth place is the lower back. Think about the moments when couples naturally touch here. Walking through a crowded room, helping someone step through a doorway, standing together in the kitchen, sitting close. That gentle hand on the lower back can communicate support and closeness. But again, context matters. Never assume that because someone is your partner, every form of touch is automatically welcome. Ask, observe, listen. You could even say something simple like, "Do you like it when I put my hand here?" That question might seem unromantic to some people. In reality, it can create more intimacy because you're showing that her experience matters. And here's where something fascinating happens. When people feel listened to, they often become more willing to communicate. And when communication improves, physical intimacy often becomes easier to discuss. Which brings us to the seventh and perhaps most misunderstood area, the lower abdomen. This is where I want to slow down. The lower abdomen is a private and potentially sensitive area. There is no scientifically established emotional switch located there, and touching it does not automatically create trust, desire, or bonding. What makes this area significant is not some hidden neurological button, it's vulnerability. For many people, the stomach and abdomen are areas they may feel self-conscious about, particularly as their bodies change with age. So if your partner allows you to touch this area, don't treat that permission as an invitation to rush further. Treat it as trust, a warm hand, a gentle embrace, a moment of closeness. And if she doesn't want that kind of touch, that's completely okay. The deeper lesson is bigger than all 7 places. Your partner's body isn't a puzzle you need to solve. She's a person you need to understand. That's the difference between technique and intimacy. Technique asks, what should I do to get a reaction? Intimacy asks, what helps you feel loved, comfortable, and connected? Those are completely different questions. And if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or beyond, this becomes especially meaningful because long-term relationships change. Bodies change, hormones change, energy levels change, health changes, stress changes, priorities change. The way you experience attraction can change too. That doesn't mean intimacy has to disappear. In many relationships, it simply needs to evolve. Maybe when you were younger, attraction was spontaneous and intense. Later in life, emotional safety, affection, companionship, humor, and feeling appreciated may become even more important parts of intimacy. So don't measure your relationship against what it looked like 20 or 30 years ago. Ask a better question. What would make us feel close now? That question can open a completely different conversation. You might even try a simple 7-day exercise. For the next week, give your partner one affectionate touch each day with no expectation attached. Day 1, hold her hand. Day 2, offer a warm hug. Day 3, gently touch her shoulder or upper back. Day 4, sit close while watching television. Day 5, put your hand on her back while walking together. Day 6, ask her what kind of affectionate touch she enjoys most. And on day 7, do whatever she tells you feels comforting and welcome. The most important day may actually be day 6, because asking is more powerful than guessing. You might discover that the place you thought she loved isn't important to her at all. Maybe she loves having her hair gently touched. Maybe she loves a long hug. Maybe she wants you to hold her hand in public. Maybe she wants you to put your arm around her while you're watching television. Maybe she doesn't want more touching at all right now, and what she really wants is for you to listen. That's why the real secret isn't 7 body parts. It's 7 opportunities to pay attention. Because sometimes the woman who says, "Don't touch me," isn't necessarily saying, "I don't love you." She may be saying, "I don't feel emotionally connected enough to enjoy this right now." And sometimes the man who stops reaching out isn't saying, "I don't care." He may be saying, "I don't know how to reconnect without feeling rejected." Both people can become trapped in the same cycle. He stops initiating because he doesn't want to be rejected. She stops responding because she doesn't feel pursued emotionally. He interprets her distance as lack of attraction. She interprets his distance as lack of love. And eventually, 2 people who still care about each other start living like roommates. If that sounds familiar, don't assume it's too late. Start smaller than you think. Don't announce that you're going to fix the relationship. Don't suddenly become intensely affectionate overnight. Just begin noticing. Notice when she looks tired. Notice when she smiles. Notice when she reaches for you. Notice when she pulls away. Notice what makes her relax. Notice what makes her uncomfortable. And then respond with respect. Because real intimacy isn't about knowing the perfect place to touch. It's about knowing when to touch, how to touch, when to ask, and when to simply hold space. If you're watching this and thinking about someone you love, take a moment tonight and ask yourself one honest question. When was the last time I touched my partner simply to make her feel loved? Not because you wanted something, not because you expected sex, not because you wanted reassurance, just because you wanted her to feel cared for. If you can't remember, don't feel guilty. Use that realization as a starting point. Walk over to her, take her hand, give her a genuine hug, or simply sit beside her and say, "I'm glad you're here." Sometimes reconnecting doesn't begin with a grand romantic gesture. Sometimes it begins with 5 quiet seconds of genuine attention. And if this video gave you something to think about, share it with someone who might benefit from hearing it. Subscribe to Senior Mindful Living and turn on the notification bell for more conversations about relationships, emotional connection, confidence, and healthy aging. Most importantly, remember this. The goal isn't to learn how to touch a woman's body. The goal is to learn how to make the woman you love feel seen, respected, safe, and valued. Because when affection carries no pressure, when attention replaces assumption, and when touch becomes a language of care rather than a demand for something more, couples can rediscover a part of their relationship they may have thought was gone forever. It's never too late to start paying attention again. And sometimes the smallest gesture is where the biggest reconnection begins.